Ladies and gentlemen, it is a truth, though perhaps not often acknowledged, that each of us stands at the center of our own world. It is within our hearts and minds that the true measure of our worth is decided, not by the applause of others, nor by the passing whims of society, but by the unshakable foundation we lay in the quiet moments of self-reflection. Today, I would like to speak of a subject that is both profoundly personal and universally essential. Self-respect. Self-respect is not merely a superficial feeling of self-admiration and pride. It is the steady and abiding recognition of our inherent value, the acknowledgement of the dignity that resides within each of us, regardless of external circumstances. It is the unspoken promise we make to ourselves that we will live in accordance with our highest principles and honor the truths we hold dear. In a world that is often so eager to cast its judgments upon us, it is easy to be swayed. The approval of others, though fleeting and sometimes fickle, can become a seductive siren, calling us to abandon our own sense of worth in exchange for temporary validation. Yet, if we are to truly respect ourselves, we must look inward, not outward. We must cultivate a self-respect that is impervious to the winds of change and the opinions of others. This, my friends, requires a certain courage to face the realities of who we are and who we have yet to become. It requires the audacity to stand firm in our beliefs and the strength to make decisions that align with our values, even when they stand in contrast to the prevailing currents of the moment. We live in a world that often prizes success above all else, but success, measured only by worldly standards, is a poor substitute for self-respect. If we chase success alone, we may find ourselves lost, for success does not sustain the soul. It is self-respect that nourishes and guides us when the world seems indifferent to our struggles and triumphs alike. But how, then, do we cultivate this essential trait? How do we become our own champions? We must start with honesty. To respect oneself, one must first understand oneself. This means looking at our actions, our failures, and our victories without the haze of self-deception. When we acknowledge our shortcomings, we give ourselves the freedom to grow. Without this honesty, we risk the peril of self-delusion, where the truth of our character is distorted by our own desires or the opinions of others. We must learn to honor our word. Our promises, whether made to others or to ourselves, are a reflection of our integrity. To break a promise is to fracture the very foundation of self-respect. Therefore, we must hold ourselves accountable not only for what we do, but for what we commit to doing. In this way, our actions will align with our values and our respect for ourselves will only deepen. The first step toward integrity is to prioritize the quality of our own values. Self-respect requires us to embrace responsibility for our decisions, our actions, and even our mistakes. When we take responsibility, we empower ourselves to shape our future. It is not the absence of failure that defines us, but our ability to learn, to rise again, and to continue striving towards becoming the best version of ourselves. Understanding self-respect. Self-respect is often misunderstood as a mere feeling of pride or confidence in oneself. It is not a transient emotion that flares up when we receive compliments or external approval. Rather, it is a deep, unwavering recognition of our inherent worth, independent of our achievements, appearance, or the opinions of others. True self-respect stems from an internal conviction that we are valuable as individuals, deserving of dignity, kindness, and fairness. True self-respect stems from an internal conviction that we are valuable as individuals, deserving of dignity, kindness, and fairness. It is the internal foundation that holds us steady in the face of adversity, self-doubt, and societal pressures. At the core of self-respect lies the understanding that we are responsible for our own actions and the consequences they bring. It is about holding ourselves accountable, being honest with ourselves, and striving to live in accordance with our values and principles. Self-respect is not something we acquire from others or from external sources. It is something that is nurtured from within, through the choices we make and the integrity we uphold. One of the key aspects of self-respect is understanding and accepting our own worth. This doesn't mean arrogance or a sense of superiority over others. Rather, it is the recognition that we, like every other human being, possess an inherent value simply by virtue of being human. We are worthy of respect and compassion, not because of what we do or how others perceive us, but because of who we are at our core. This understanding allows us to hold ourselves in esteem even in moments of failure, because we know that our worth is not contingent on perfection or approval from the outside world. Awareness of our essence of being, self-respect also involves respecting the boundaries that define who we are. These boundaries are not just physical, but emotional, mental, and moral. When we understand and honor these boundaries, we create a space where we can thrive, free from manipulation, exploitation, or undue influence. Setting and maintaining personal boundaries is an essential part of cultivating self-respect because it allows us to protect our energy, time, and emotional well-being. It requires us to say no when necessary, to assert ourselves when we feel our values or needs are being disregarded, and to prioritize our own mental and emotional health without guilt. Equally important is the role of integrity in self-respect. Integrity is the alignment of our thoughts, words, and actions with our core values and beliefs. It is the consistency between what we profess to believe and how we behave in the world. When we act with integrity, we reinforce our self-respect by demonstrating to ourselves that we are capable of living according to our own standards, even in the face of challenges. It's in those moments when we face temptation or external pressure that our true character is revealed. And choosing to stay true to our values strengthens the respect we have for ourselves. An essential component of self-respect is the ability to accept our imperfections. No one is without flaws, and self-respect does not demand perfection. In fact, it allows for imperfection, recognizing that our mistakes and failures are opportunities for growth rather than shame. A person with self-respect is not someone who never falters, but someone who, when they stumble, is able to take responsibility for their actions, learn from the experience, and move forward with renewed determination. This acceptance of our imperfections is what frees us from the crippling fear of failure and empowers us to pursue our goals with confidence, knowing that setbacks are not the end, but simply a part of the journey. Self-respect is also closely linked to self-compassion. To respect ourselves is to treat ourselves with kindness, especially in moments of struggle or hardship. It is easy to be harsh with ourselves when we make mistakes or fall short of our own expectations, but self-respect requires us to offer ourselves the same understanding and compassion that we would offer to a friend in need. This compassion allows us to forgive ourselves and move forward, rather than being trapped in guilt, regret, or self-criticism. When we show ourselves kindness, We reaffirm our belief that we are worthy of love and care, regardless of our flaws or imperfections. In the pursuit of self-respect, one must also recognize the importance of self-discipline. It is through discipline that we demonstrate to ourselves that we are capable of making decisions that align with our long-term well-being, even when it requires short-term sacrifice or discomfort. Whether it's committing to a healthy lifestyle, adhering to ethical standards, or working towards a personal goal, self-discipline is the vehicle through which we honor our potential and our values. It is the bridge between who we are and who we wish to become, and it reinforces the belief that we are worthy of achieving the best for ourselves. Self-respect is intertwined with the ability to stand firm in the face of criticism or disapproval. In a world where external validation is often sought and prized, it takes courage to maintain self-respect without needing constant approval from others. This does not mean disregarding constructive feedback or failing to recognize areas where we can improve. Rather, it means knowing that our worth is not contingent on the judgments of others. We are capable of assessing our own actions, understanding our own intentions, and making decisions that honor our values, regardless of the opinions that may surround us. Self-respect is an ongoing practice. It requires conscious effort and constant self-reflection. It is not something we achieve once and for all, but a quality that we continually nurture through our thoughts, actions, and choices. The journey toward building self-respect is not linear, and there will be moments when we fall short. However, it is in those moments that our true commitment to self-respect is tested. By choosing to rise again, to honor ourselves, even in the face of difficulty, we continue to build the unshakable foundation that will support us throughout our lives. Overcoming doubt and external validation. External validation is one of the greatest sources of inner conflict for many individuals. From the moment we are born, we are taught to seek approval from those around us. As children, we look for praise from our parents, teachers, and peers. As adults, this desire for approval extends into our professional and personal lives. Whether it's seeking recognition at work, validation in relationships, or the approval of our social circles, the desire to be seen and appreciated by others can be overwhelming. While there is nothing inherently wrong with seeking feedback or recognition, when our self-worth becomes dependent on external validation, it can lead to a fragile sense of self-respect. We may begin to place our value in the hands of others, losing sight of the internal compass that should guide us. When we rely too heavily on external validation, we place our self-esteem in a vulnerable position. The opinions of others can be fleeting, subjective, and influenced by factors beyond our control. What one person admires in us, another might criticize. The applause of today may be replaced by silence or even condemnation tomorrow. Thus, when our sense of worth is tied to the approval of others, we are left on a constant emotional roller coaster, up one moment and down the next, never truly stable. This instability prevents us from developing the kind of unshakable self-respect that is crucial for living a fulfilled life. To break free from this cycle, we must first understand the power of self-contagion. Self-contagion is the act of recognizing our own worth without needing to seek approval from the outside world. It is an internal process where we acknowledge our own efforts, honor our intentions, and take pride in our progress, regardless of whether others notice or approve. When we validate ourselves, we no longer need to depend on external sources for our sense of worth. We know who we are, what we stand for, and the value we bring to the table. This internal validation is a vital foundation for building self-respect, as it creates a sense of stability that remains intact even when external circumstances are uncertain. A critical component of overcoming doubt and external validation is the practice of self-reflection. By regularly reflecting on our actions, thoughts, and values, we can develop a deeper understanding of who we are and what truly matters to us. This process of introspection allows us to connect with our authentic selves and recognize that our worth is not defined by others' perceptions, but by our own choices and actions. Through self-reflection, we can better understand our strengths and weaknesses, and most importantly, we can learn to appreciate our efforts, even when they go unrecognized by others. Another way to cultivate self-consultation is through self-affirmation. This involves consciously affirming our own worth and capabilities. It could be as simple as reminding ourselves of past achievements, acknowledging our growth, or reinforcing positive beliefs about who we are. By repeating affirmations that align with our values, we begin to shift our focus from seeking approval to recognizing our own worth. Self-affirmation acts as a counterbalance to the tendency to seek validation externally, providing a steady reminder that we are valuable, capable, and worthy of respect. Embracing vulnerability also plays a critical role in overcoming the need for external validation. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness in a world that values perfection and invulnerability. However, true strength comes not from hiding our flaws or pretending to be infallible, but from acknowledging and accepting them. When we embrace vulnerability, we free ourselves from the constant need to appear flawless in the eyes of others. This allows us to stop seeking validation for our image or our actions and start focusing on genuine self-growth and self-acceptance. The moment we accept ourselves, flaws and all, we free ourselves from the cycle of seeking approval and, instead, create a solid sense of self-worth that is not contingent on the judgments of others. Another important aspect of overcoming external validation is learning to embrace criticism. Criticism is often seen as something to be feared or avoided. But when we understand that criticism does not diminish our value as individuals, we can approach it as a tool for growth. Criticism from others can provide valuable feedback that helps us improve, but it should never define our worth. It is only when we internalize criticism to the point where it affects our self-worth that it becomes damaging. When we detach our sense of self from external judgment, we can use feedback constructively without allowing it to undermine our self-respect. Setting personal goals and striving for self-improvement without the need for external recognition is another powerful tool in overcoming the reliance on validation from others. Setting goals that are meaningful to us and working toward them regardless of whether anyone else notices creates a sense of fulfillment that is independent of outside praise. By focusing on the intrinsic satisfaction that comes from making progress, we can begin to detach our self-esteem from external sources and cultivate a deeper sense of self-worth. The challenge of overcoming doubt and external validation also requires us to surround ourselves with the right people. Relationships are essential in life, and the people we choose to associate with can significantly impact how we view ourselves. When we are surrounded by people who encourage us to be our authentic selves, who value us for who we are rather than what we do for them, we are more likely to maintain a healthy sense of self-respect. Conversely, when we surround ourselves with people who constantly seek to manipulate, control, or diminish us, our sense of self-worth becomes fragile and dependent on their approval. Building a circle of relationships based on mutual respect, honesty, and support is crucial for maintaining a strong and unshakable sense of self-respect. Overcoming doubt and external validation requires a shift in perspective about failure and success. We often look to the approval of others as a sign of success, and we interpret criticism or failure as a sign of inadequacy. However, true self-respect allows us to redefine success on our own terms. Success is not about meeting others' expectations or gaining their approval. It is about aligning our actions with our values, striving toward personal growth, and staying true to ourselves, regardless of external opinions. When we adopt this mindset, we become less reliant on external validation and more focused on the intrinsic rewards of living a life of integrity and authenticity. Practical steps for cultivating self-respect. Cultivating self-respect requires more than abstract notions of self-worth or self-esteem. It demands deliberate actions, continuous effort, and a commitment to personal growth. It is not a passive quality that simply develops over time, but a practice that we must actively nurture and protect. While there are many ways to build and reinforce self-respect, certain steps stand out as essential in ensuring it becomes a lasting part of who we are. These practical steps, when consistently applied, help create a strong foundation of self-respect that guides our decisions and behavior. One of the first and most essential steps in cultivating self-respect is setting clear boundaries. Boundaries are not just about protecting ourselves from external harm or intrusion. They are about honoring our needs, values, and emotional well-being. Without boundaries, we allow others to dictate the terms of our relationships and experiences, often leading to feelings of frustration, resentment, or self-neglect. Setting boundaries involves identifying what is acceptable to us and what is not, and communicating these limits with respect and clarity. Whether it's saying no to unreasonable requests, asserting our need for personal space, or refusing to tolerate disrespectful behavior, boundaries help protect our sense of self-worth. By upholding our boundaries, we send a clear message to ourselves and others that we value ourselves enough to stand firm in our principles. Another crucial step in building self-respect is honoring commitments and promises. Integrity is at the heart of self-respect, and one of the most powerful ways to demonstrate integrity is through our actions. When we make promises, whether to others or to ourselves, it is essential that we follow through. Breaking promises erodes trust, both in others and in ourselves. It sends the message that we are unreliable or unworthy of our own trust. By consistently keeping our commitments, we reinforce our integrity and solidify our self-respect. It also means being realistic about what we can commit to, knowing that our time and energy are finite. Honoring our word is a reflection of our personal integrity, and it allows us to build a solid reputation with ourselves and others. The act of keeping promises is not just about external trust, it is about honoring the relationship we have with our own values and beliefs. Taking responsibility for our actions is another vital aspect of cultivating self-respect. This means owning our decisions, acknowledging our mistakes, and accepting the consequences of our behavior, without deflecting blame or making excuses. When we take responsibility, we reclaim our power and agency. It allows us to learn from our experiences and grow as individuals. This step is particularly important when things go wrong. It is easy to fall into the trap of playing the victim or blaming others when we face difficulties, but this mindset prevents us from learning and moving forward. Self-respect demands that we confront our challenges head-on, take accountability for our role in the situation, and work toward making things right. By embracing responsibility, we show that we are mature, capable, and in control of our lives regardless of external circumstances. So, another important practice in cultivating self-respect is the act of self-care. Taking care of our physical, emotional, and mental health is not a luxury, it is a necessity for maintaining self-respect. When we neglect ourselves, whether through poor habits, lack of rest, or ignoring our emotional needs, we are sending the message that we are not worthy of care or attention. Self-respect demands that we prioritize our well-being and make choices that nourish and sustain us. This might mean eating nourishing food, exercising regularly, getting enough sleep, setting aside time for relaxation, or seeking support when needed. Self-care also extends to our mental and emotional health, where it is important to engage in practices that promote self-awareness, emotional regulation, and stress management. By taking care of ourselves, we show that we value and respect our bodies, minds, and spirits, creating a solid foundation of self-respect that radiates into every aspect of our lives. Self-reflection and self-awareness are also essential tools in building self-respect. Taking time to reflect on our actions, decisions, and emotions allows us to better understand ourselves and the motivations behind our behavior. Self-reflection helps us identify areas where we can improve, acknowledge our strengths, and recognize patterns that may be holding us back. It also allows us to check in with ourselves and ask whether our actions align with our values and goals. By regularly reflecting on our lives, we ensure that we are living authentically and making choices that support our long-term well-being. Self-awareness allows us to act with intention rather than reaction, ensuring that we live in a way that is congruent with who we truly are. An often overlooked step in building self-respect is embracing failure and learning from it. Many people are afraid to fail, seeing it as a reflection of their inadequacy or lack of worth. However, self-respect involves seeing failure as a natural and necessary part of life's journey. When we fail, it is an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve. Rather than allowing failure to diminish our self-respect, we must reframe it as a valuable teacher. By accepting failure with grace and using it as an opportunity for growth, we demonstrate resilience and maturity. This mindset shift allows us to continue moving forward, unafraid of setbacks, knowing that they are not indicators of our worth, but stepping stones to greater success. In addition, seeking constructive feedback is another essential practice in cultivating self-respect. While external validation should not define our worth, constructive feedback can help us grow and refine our skills. Self-respect allows us to remain open to criticism without internalizing it as a reflection of our value as a person. By seeking feedback from trusted sources and using it to improve ourselves, we show that we are committed to personal development and are willing to work toward being our best selves. This humility, coupled with a strong sense of self-worth, allows us to grow without losing sight of our value. Surrounding ourselves with supportive, positive people is a practical step that cannot be overlooked. The people we interact with on a daily basis have a significant impact on how we view ourselves. Being in relationships that uplift and encourage us helps reinforce our self-respect. Toxic relationships, on the other hand, can undermine our self-worth, often making us feel unworthy or inadequate. By choosing to spend time with individuals who support and respect us, we create an environment where self-respect can thrive. These relationships serve as mirrors that reflect our inherent value, helping us stay grounded in our self-worth. Through consistent efforts in these practical areas, we can cultivate a profound and lasting sense of self-respect. Each step, whether setting boundaries, taking responsibility, or practicing self-care, reinforces our belief in our inherent value and strengthens our ability to navigate life's challenges with dignity and integrity.